Hello, everyone, and welcome to the National Inventor Club. I'm your founder and president, Brian Freed. Nice to meet everybody if I haven't met you already. And we have a great lineup tonight. First, I'd like to make a couple quick announcements. Proud to say that I have the supplemental trademark registered for National Inventor Club. Just received that in the mail today. And for the patent attorneys or agents that are on, if you want to put that in the chat to explain it, that would be great. Otherwise, we can look it up a little later and talk about that. Also, National Inventor Club, if you'd like to become a member, obviously we have free membership, and paid membership does have its benefits. If you're a paid member, you get introduced on one of the National Inventor Club meetings that we're having, just like tonight. You will also be able to participate in our Inventor Showcase, which will give you about 4 minutes of presenting your invention, your prototype, your finished product. And we also have service providers that are paid members as well, and we'll have a service provider Inventor Showcase. A couple months ago, we had an Inventor Showcase. It was very successful, and I'm looking forward to doing many more together. As also, when you're a paid member, you also receive the National Inventor Club t-shirt. So I love sending these out. So you're more than welcome to sign up as a paid member, or you continue to become to be a free member. That's great. Really great lineup tonight. We have Adeeti from Indiegogo. I know that there's a lot of inventors out there trying to figure out, and even startups, entrepreneurs, how are you going to get your product manufactured, and do you have the money to do it? And one of the possibilities is crowdfunding, which we're going to go over tonight. Before we start with Indiegogo and Adeeti and her presentation, I'd like to introduce some of the other people that are going to be speaking tonight. We have Will Salas. He is from PTRC, which is a division of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So PTRC stands for Patent and Trademark Resource Center. Will, give us some quick tips and tricks from PTRC.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. It's always good to be on here. Hello, everybody, all the inventors and entrepreneurs out there. I work at the Smithtown Library in Smithtown, Long Island, New York. If you're local in the area, I'd be happy to work with you. I could work with you in person, and I could also meet with you via Google Meet. And what I do is, first, I wear a lot of hats. I'm a librarian first, but I work with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. We are accredited to offer information and tutorials about patent searching and trademark searching. So for tonight's 2-minute tip, I'm going to talk to you about trademarks. One of the first questions I get is from business owners, entrepreneurs, is why don't I just apply and let the trademark office go ahead and find out if there's an existing mark or a pending filed mark that's already out there. Well, the thing is, you're not going to get your application fees returned to you. So it's always a good idea to do what they call a clearance search. What you want to do is make sure that your mark is not infringing upon an already existing mark or a mark that is pending. And the reason that you want to visit with a Patent and Trademark Resource Center, or if you have the means to get some legal representation, is because the search can be a little difficult. And the reason it's difficult is because there are 3 levels of trademark protection. There's common law, and common law means that anyone can have rights to their mark. They don't have to register. Really quickly, you've probably seen the TM and the SM already. These are free for any business to start using right away. And what this does, it alerts others in your industry that you're interested in protecting your mark. That's the common law. State level is state level trademark protection. If you own a food truck and you're only doing business in a couple of counties in your state, well, you can get a state level trademark protection. But if you're doing online and you're shipping items all over the country, the best protection for you would be federal trademark protection. And that's when you get the encircled R, which everyone is striving for. That assumes that you have ownership throughout the country. You can actually register your mark with the U.S. Customs Agency, and the U.S. Customs will actually look for any knockoffs coming in across the borders of your product coming in with some fake products with your logo on there. And just to recap, trademarks, again, are anything that's tangible, like your iPhones, your pens, and your water bottles. So you could use the TM right away for anything, any product that you're selling. And the SM stands for service marks. If you are a work with taxes or lawn services or hairdressers, you're providing a service and you can use that right away. So these are the kind of tips that you will receive when you visit with me or any other PTRC around the country. And to visit, I'll put my information in the chat box later. If you want to give me a call or visit my website, I'll be happy to work with you. And everything we do at the Patent and Trademark Resource Center is free. And there's 85 Patent and Trademark Resource Centers around the country. Contact me and I'll find the closest PTRC to your location. I know that's my time. Thanks again, Brian.
Thank you, Will. I love that. Free. That's great. So if I'm an inventor or I came up with a great idea, one of the most important steps is to be able to do a patent search and research, not only to walk down the aisles of Walmart to see if it's out there or not, but actually to dig a little deeper. And this Patent and Trademark Resource Center that's available from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, they have locations around the country that you can go in and use the same tools and resources that the examiners at the Patent and Trademark Office use. So what Will do and his colleagues all around the country, you'll go there and you'll give your information, or you don't necessarily have to reveal what your invention is, but they are bound by confidentiality. You can just talk about the industry as something very similar. And what Will do is he'll end up putting you on track to search into the database, into the resources, and to start pulling prior art. And from the prior art, you can also compare to the claims of the ones that are utility patents, and the designs are ornamental, so you can kind of compare them. And then you can take that and make a decision if your idea is something that you should move forward with or not. Or you can take that information and you can give it to a patent attorney or agent and let them compare what's kind of like all that, heavy stuff that you're reading in a patent, and let them compare a few and see and get a patentability opinion if it's something that you should move forward with or not. And maybe if it's expired, maybe it's just public domain and you can sell it if you want and everybody else can sell it. So really great resource. Will, I know that you do a super job in Smithtown, New York at the Smithtown Public Library. Thank you so much for being an advisor to National Inventor Club. We really appreciate your tips and support here, and keep doing what you're doing.
And we appreciate everything you do for inventors, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will. Okay. All right. Let's get, let me put, where is Erica? Hi, Erica. Let me get you into the stream here. There we go. How you doing, Erica?
Good, Brian. How are you?
Doing great. So let me make a quick introduction. So Erica Chase Gregory is from Farmingdale Small Business Development Center, which is part of the Small Business Administration, the SBA. And very interesting also, there are SBDCs, Small Business Development Centers, all around the country. I'm taking everything away from you, Erica, but I can't help it. And unbelievable resources that are available for startups, inventors, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call yourself. Erica, why don't you give us some quick tips and tricks from the SBDC, and also maybe to tell us a little bit from your perspective of what the SBDCs do for inventors and entrepreneurs.
Sure. So I'll start there. The Small Business Development Center is a network. In New York State, we have 22 centers. And like Brian said, there are centers across the nation. So each state and territory has an SBDC network. We are part of a national network from the ASBDC, which is the America's SBDC. So anywhere in the country, wherever you are, there is a center close to you, probably within a 30-minute radius, that you can connect for free. We give services to existing businesses and startups, people who just have an idea and want to work through, seeing if their idea for that business or product is viable. We can help you with looking at the costs of that, looking at the regulatory information that's pertinent to your industry that you want to get into. We can help you looking at how to manufacture things. We can get you all sorts of resources to help you get to where you want to be in your business, whether it's a service providing business or a product business that you want to get into market. So wherever you need the help with for your business, we're there for you as a free resource. Everything you share with your business advisor is personal and confidential. We are bound by confidentiality. So we have a lot of inventors that come to our center at Farmingdale Small Business Development Center, and we've helped them from start to finish. My tip and trick for this month is to talk about when or how you go about moving from free service to paid for services. Often entrepreneurs get to a certain level where they need to bring on a paid for service to help them get to the next level. And certainly inventors are a group of entrepreneurs that certainly need to spend money at some point to get to their next level. So what we want to do is make sure that you have the tools that you need, not to go into those those arrangements too soon, because you certainly want to be ready and find the right resource for you that will bring you to the next step before you spend a lot of money that you're not ready to spend. So you don't want to waste money. That's not what you want to do. So some of the things you want to think about is, number one, get a few referrals for who you need. So if you're looking for an attorney, you'll want to get 2 or 3 referrals from sources that you trust. So either the Inventors Club certainly has service providers. Brian can always give you referrals. Your SBDC will have referrals for you. We don't recommend any specific vendor for you, but certainly we can refer. And then you want to do your due diligence. So what that means is ask questions, set up an appointment, make sure that you have a list of questions that you ask all of your vendors the same questions, where you want to go, what you want to do. That way, when you get your answers, you're comparing apples to apples, and you know what services you're going to get for that fee, and also what projected outcomes you can anticipate. So again, you'll want to ask the same questions, get a few referrals for the vendor that you need, and then set up your meeting. That vendor or service provider should give you some time to answer those questions. If they rush you through answers, or if they say, yes, we do that, and they're vague, use your gut. If you're not comfortable with them, if they're not giving you the time in a consultation, maybe to go somewhere else. Service providers become a real integral part of your success. So make sure that you feel comfortable with them. And again, look for referrals from trusted sources. And again, don't just go with one.
Thank you so much, Erica. Erica and the Farmingdale Small Business Development Center are a partner sponsor of National Inventor Club. You can always listen to her tips and very great information to help you. Most of the time, I know that people in my Inventors Club, when I was working in Long Island with you, Erica, they use the SBDC for research, for business plans, for connecting up with local resources. Most of the time, SBDCs are in the colleges, so you have the engineering departments. If you're looking to make a prototype, Small Business Development Center will connect you up. And just great information, and even grants and loans and all different types of things. So thank you for your help and support with National Inventor Club. There's a couple people asking in the chat where they can find their local SBDC. So can you give the website? I know it's America's SBDC. Is that right?
Yes, I will put it in the chat for you.
Thank you. Excellent. And guess what? The meetings with the Small Business Development Center advisor are free. Okay, so take advantage of our government resources. Thank you very much, Erica. Be well and keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate all the help and support, and also everything that you're doing with all the COVID business, what's happening with COVID and the small businesses out there. Thank you for saving them and keeping them going.
You're welcome. Thank you, Brian. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Okay, let's meet a couple inventors. We have it's tough to get everybody on here. Some prefer not to be on when they become a member, and others are just, the timing might be off, but I have Dr. Ryan Letts is one of the, let me just get Erica. Let me get you back here. Hold on one second. There we go. All right, was that Erica? I think she was throwing her voice, but here I am. So Dr. Ryan Letts is on. He's a new member of National Inventor Club. How you doing, Dr. Letts? If you can tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you joined National Inventor Club.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. And for the previous speakers that were on, Erica, I know, the SBDCs, they're near and dear to my heart because I grew up coming through the SBDC system. So in terms of who I am Dr. Ryan Letts. I am the founder of Cleon May Corp, which is a business management consulting firm, but we also do research and development. I was born on the island of Jamaica. I am a U.S. military veteran, and I wore many hats in the past, banking. But I really got struck by the invention bug, and you, Brian, and a lot of other folks within that sphere helped to foster that, especially the folks at the SBDC, the folks at the USPTO. They're wonderful resources. So that's just a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Excellent. Thank you very much for becoming a member of National Inventor Club. Keep doing what you're doing, Ryan. I know you by Ryan. And we're looking forward to seeing you on the next Inventor Showcase with your very unique invention. So we'll catch up again soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I have Dr. Lillian Ellis. She's from Cornell University, and I'm very excited to let everybody know that she is our newest advisor to National Inventor Club, and we're going to be doing some very interesting things. Lillian, if Dr. Ellis, if you can introduce yourself, and maybe you can give everybody a little sneak peek of what we're up to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. So hi, my name is Lily Ellis. I teach and do research on intellectual property ownership, protection, and theft at Cornell. I've been working with independent inventors and entrepreneurs for years, doing research in this community, in the patent community in Washington, D.C. I've absolutely loved it. I'm so thrilled to be joining this organization. It's really incredible what you've done here, Brian. So over the next couple of months, and we hope to do this in the long term as well, but we'll be rolling out a series of research studies, trying to get a sense of, what the current state of the independent inventor entrepreneur community here in the United States looks like, what sorts of resources, seem to be most useful, to get a sense of your stories, experiences, your products, how you connect with your ideas, your creative process. And then, taking these data that we collect, these anonymized data, and using them to get a sense of how to pass on these legacy lessons to help entrepreneurs in the future as they develop their products and commercialize and protect their intellectual property. So we're really excited about it. I'll be sharing more information in the months to come. So please keep an eye out. We'd love to have you participate. And I think that's it for me.
Great. Inventors and entrepreneurs and resources for inventors. You'll be hearing from Dr. Ellis and her students, possibly. We're going to be doing some very interesting research on inventors. And it's going to be who you are, where you're from, how old you are, male, female, whatever it is, what industry you're working in. Does your invention relate to what industry you're in, that you work in? Really interesting things. And we're going to be putting out research reports from National Inventor Club with Dr. Ellis and her students. So thank you very much. We're looking forward to having you as our new advisor for National Inventor Club. And we appreciate it. And I know a bunch of your students are on watching and listening tonight. So thank you very much. And we'll have them also maybe do some internships with National Inventor Club because there's plenty of work to do here.
Yep, that would be fabulous. And we look forward to having you as a guest speaker.
Thank you very much. We'll speak to you soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. If you haven't already gone to the front page, you don't have to do it now, but the front page of National Inventor Club, we have an area that is the Inventor Spotlight. And most of the time it's per month, but I'd like to introduce everybody to Anthony Pagodo. He is the inventor. This is one of many inventions that he's had, but this is his latest one and still going strong. Tony Pagodo with the twist lock grommet. Tony, if you can tell, congratulations first off on your success with twist lock grommet so far. I know that you have some exciting things happening, and that's why you're the Inventor Spotlight. So congratulations, and why don't you tell us what you're up to?
Brian, thank you very much for inviting me back. Hello to everyone. Here to discuss the twist lock grommet. I just want to give you a brief update. If you recall, when I last presented it, this is the twist lock grommet. And I'll just show you this very quick model. It goes into a surface. You run your wires and cables through it, and you place on a cap. Okay, so let me give you a brief update of what's happened over the last 2 months. Let me continue to hold this up, okay, so you get a good idea of it. Okay, the twist lock grommet, I'm very happy to report, it is now the highest rated grommet on Amazon. I'm very pleased with that and proud of that. It is the only self-securing grommet, and it locks with these wings without tools. That's what makes it very unique. It is patented. Sales continue to scale up on Amazon, and it is now, as I said, the highest rated grommet out there. We just went live also with Walmart about a month ago, and we're very happy about that. By the way, the reviews on Amazon are truly outstanding. They're all basically 5-star, and I love that people love the product. We've now, at Walmart, just this morning, we got a large order. We're starting to see increased sales on Walmart.com, and that's great. My last thing is the 4 next steps. We're making a backup mold. You all know the importance of backup, but beyond that, it will increase our production capacity as we scale up with sales. And that seems to be happening real quick, and that's great. We want to simplify operations to handle the increased sales and volume that we anticipate. We want to reduce packaging costs, all right? We've gone to other suppliers. We've asked for quotes and proposals. We're reviewing them. And, you know, we've been so busy the last 4 or 5 years with this. There are better prices out there, folks. So do due diligence, do your homework, get the best price you can with the best value. Also, marketing and building the brand is our last step. By the way, on that, Brian, thank you for all the help you're doing. Brian is helping us get on social media, and he's done, as usual, a wonderful job for that. So I don't want to take any more time, but again, that is the grommet. The wires go through and cables. When you're done, you put the cap on. Very neat, very simple. Okay, thank you very much, all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony. And Leonardo says, awesome, way to go, Tony. I know that he's one of the old timers from the Inventors Club's local, so he's congratulating you. And I know how proud you are, Tony, and congratulations, and keep up all the success with Slack Grommet.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you all. Good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me just, there we go. Okay. Now we have Adeeti Goswami, and she is from Indiegogo. And like I said earlier, maybe you have an invention that you really want to make into a business. You want to manufacture it. You want to sell it yourself. You want to really get it out there and build maybe not only a product, but maybe a brand, but you You're asking people, maybe yes, maybe no. You're trying to find investors, seed funding. There's all these things that you're trying to figure out which way to go. And one of the options, which we always hear about, but maybe we're not so sure about, is crowdfunding. And that's why I have the pleasure of introducing Adeeti from Indiegogo. How you doing, Adeeti?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Thank you for being a guest on National Inventor Club. We really appreciate it. Indiegogo has always been very supportive of my previous Inventor Clubs that I've run. And so we've heard that Indiegogo is inventor friendly. And is it the right thing for us? Should we do crowdfunding? What are we getting ourselves into when we get into crowdfunding? What does it look like when we do get the funding, and what the expectations are? So I know that you have a great presentation. Maybe first off, if you can start off and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Indiegogo, and we'll get started with our presentation. Afterwards, well, we'll try a little bit here and there because I know you have a few sections. Maybe we'll take some questions in between the sections, and then we'll have full Q&A also at the end. So let's get started. So
That
tell us
sounds great.
yourself, Adeeti.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for having me again. And so my name's Adeeti. I've been at Indiegogo now for, I guess I'm going into my 7th year, which is kind of a long time to be at one startup for all that amount of time. And I think the thing that's really kept me at Indiegogo is the fact that I get to work hands-on with entrepreneurs every single day. So no day is really the same. No month is the same. And my role is essentially to bring on campaigns and then help them with strategy work and help them be as successful as they can possibly be on our platform. So Indiegogo is really very much kind of like a hands-on sort of platform. And my job is to kind of be the hands that are kind of on the campaign to make sure you really feel like you're covering all the bases, that you're not leaving any money on the table, and just kind of helping, usher you through the crowdfunding process.
Excellent. Okay, so we're ready to get started. Everybody ready? This is what we've been waiting for. Let's hear from Indiegogo. And is your invention into crowdfunding? Should you crowdfund for your invention, for your startup? Adeeti, it's all yours. Let's get the presentation up here. Everybody see that? Okay. All right.
Great. Okay, so I'll kick it off. My presentation essentially is about how to launch your next campaign or your first campaign with Indiegogo. We've got a pretty quick agenda here for you guys to take a look at. So first, we're going to kind of go into some of the differences in crowdfunding over the years. We've been around for over 10 years at this point, and crowdfunding has really evolved in those 10 years. So I want to kind of touch on the differences between then and now. And then who is Indiegogo / crowdfunding just generally? Who's that for? And how do you know it's right for you? And then we're going to go into the 3 stages of crowdfunding, what that looks like, and kind of how to build the best template for crowdfunding that you possibly can. And then we have 3 final sections where we're going to talk about having the right product, building the right community, and then telling the right story. And then, like Brian said, in the middle, we'll have some questions and we'll have some time for questions. So if you have them, feel free to send them in, and I'm sure Brian will pick and choose the ones that are relevant as we go along. So historically crowdfunding, I think a lot of people, when they think of it, they still kind of think of it as this like kooky space for kooky inventors. And that is definitely, I think, where we got our start. This is an example that I love from 2012. It is the bug assault. It is a play on words. It's a bug gun, essentially, that is also, it shoots salt at bugs in order to kind of knock them out, essentially. I would recommend maybe giving the video a watch. It's a little bit violent. You do get to see some bugs get assaulted. But I think it's really kind of quirky and a little bit funny to see where crowdfunding really started versus where it's at now. So Bug Assault was really one of those situations where they had a very crazy idea and they wanted to know how to get funding for it. This is not exactly the type of thing that VCs are like really clamoring to give a lot of money to, and certainly not $500,000. And so they threw it up on Indiegogo, no plan really whatsoever. And $500,000 later, they had a product, and they found out that they had an audience and a need for this product. And so that was 2012. Since then, the industry has really matured, and there's really a whole cottage industry, I think, that's sprung up around crowdfunding. And so now you have agencies that help you raise money. You have videographers who really only make crowdfunding videos. You have, just if you can think about something that goes on a campaign page and goes into the crowdfunding process, there's someone whose job it is to kind of make that happen for you if you don't feel like doing it yourself. And so we've really seen campaigns evolve since then. This is a campaign that's currently live on the platform. You can really see the difference in just the video overlay image. Over here, we didn't actually even have a video overlay image. And here we've got this like really shiny, beautiful kind of flat lay kind of thing, the type that you would expect to see on, Instagram or something like that. And it is a webcam that was funded, within the first 30 minutes. And they are only a few days in at this point, and they're already at 376,000. And the process for launching this campaign was very different. They had been planning this launch for months ahead of time. They had some money that they poured into ads beforehand. They had an agency. So it's really very different than what the Bug Assault team did. And that's kind of how crowdfunding has evolved over the years.
So Adeeti, that one, if you just go back 1 second, that one, they were looking for $15,000, and they worked with an agency, which you'll explain a little bit later. But at the end of the day, they're so far at $376,000 that they raised with 2,150 backers. Wow. I guess that's what you call viral. Is that?
Yeah, this definitely is one that took off very quickly, and that 15,000 is right. They hit that number really quickly, and I think something that you'll notice across a lot of crowdfunding campaigns these days is that number kind of seems a little low compared to what you might imagine someone would need to build a product, and that's because not everyone that comes to crowdfunding these days really even needs the money in order to produce. And so I'll kind of touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, they have 2,100 backers at this point, and like I said, they're only about a week into the campaign, and they're going strong. So
very nice.
Yeah. So I guess the next question is, when we ask ourselves, who is Indiegogo for? What do we think of? And I think, like I said, initially people really thought of people like Bug Assault, a crazy idea. You throw it up there and you see if anyone's interested. Yeah, that is true. People do use crowdfunding for fundraising. They also use it for a few other things. And again, this has really been part of the evolution of crowdfunding. So as you can kind of see here, the second thing that we have that people use it for is customer discovery and market validation, branding and awareness, and then market entry. So I'm going to go a little deeper into all of these. So you guys can kind of figure out if one of these four really applies to you, or usually I find it's actually a combination of the four, and sometimes, all four. So yes, this first one, fundraising, this is the more traditional thing that people think about when they think about crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is for startups who need funds to actually manufacture their product, and crowdfunding creates that opportunity for the customers to actually give you that money. So that way you don't need to go to VCs, you don't need to, use all your savings up in order to produce the product. And so this is definitely the more typical one. And like I said, this is often a factor in people's crowdfunding process, but it's not entirely the main thing anymore. The other thing that we're really seeing is that people are using this as a customer discovery and market validation tool. So unlike, selling your product at Target or, just like a brick and mortar, when you are selling a product online, you're really getting a lot of information about your customer base. And so through Indiegogo, you're actually able to learn a lot about who your target customer is, what's working for them, what isn't working for them in the ads that you're running. And you're doing a lot of A/B testing as the 30 to 60 days of the campaign is going on. So that way you're finding out, what sort of messaging really resonates, what doesn't resonate. Maybe this feature isn't really what people are looking for. Maybe this product isn't really what people are looking for. So crowdfunding can be a great market validation tool for campaigns. And so a good example of this is, Bug Assault. We started there, and now a couple years ago, we've worked with names as big as Lego, as big as Bose, household names that we all think about when we think of like some of the like big household products. And so Lego ran an Indiegogo campaign a couple years ago, and they had a really limited number of products that they wanted to sell. And they just wanted to figure out, is there an interest in something like this? And so they market tested with this product to see who would be the target audience, and how can we make this feel really niche and interesting? And crowdfunding was kind of what they struck upon. Like I said, Bose was another one that did this. They had these sleep headphones that you could put in, and essentially it kind of like rocked you to sleep, not literally, but figuratively. And so it was kind of like a little sleep headphone. It was a play on their typical in-ear headphones. And so they tested that first with the Indiegogo audience before bringing that live and selling that in their stores.
Adeeti, so for example, with the Lego, they don't need the money. We know that Lego is well funded. They used your platform to validate or maybe to figure out which could be their next launch. And based on that, so people are investing, I guess you could say, or donating, I don't know which word really that you'd prefer to use, and in return or in exchange for something. Right. So what was this Lego about? How did that work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the terminology that we use on the platform is perks and pledging instead of buying and ordering, because what you're doing with a crowdfunding project is you're not actually technically buying anything. People are giving you, X amount of money, typically for a discount off of what your MSRP is actually going to be. And so you're not exactly making the most amount of money off of this product, but they are taking a risk by supporting you before this product has been developed in most cases, before you've actually put in the manufacturing order. And they are supporting you early on, and they're expecting to receive a perk in return. So it's not a donation per se. I really wouldn't think of it as a donation, because that will probably lead to some pretty upset backers and a community that is unhappy that you weren't able to deliver on your promises. So think of them as customers kind of by another name. And yeah, Lego essentially used this as a way to figure out, was there a need for this product? Who actually really liked this product? Who the audience would actually look like? And what sort of messaging could they use when they actually did roll this out to the brick and mortars? And so they were able to get a lot of interesting learnings from it.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. So the next thing that we really see people using it for is branding and awareness. And so again, like I said, there's a combination of this. I think pretty much everyone is using this as a way to figure out what their branding looks like. And so it's a really good way to actually generate interest and awareness. Crowdfunding, these days, it is pretty ubiquitous. A lot of huge companies have actually gotten their start in crowdfunding, ones that you wouldn't necessarily even think of. And certainly a lot of people who are trying to do D2C products really did get their start with crowdfunding. And so it's kind of a good way to make that splash, because that's where a lot of those customers kind of exist, and that's where they're going to really find the next big thing. And so, yeah, this is a good way for a lot of people who have already, developed the product and they really are just sitting in the warehouses waiting to ship. This is a good way for them to make that splash early on, rather than doing things like rolling out press releases and some of the other ways that you might think of launching the product. And then finally, we have market entry. And this is something that we actually really find global companies will use Indiegogo for. So companies based out of China, based out of, Europe, they might want to find a more international audience rather than just being kind of a home team sort of company. And so we've actually worked with a lot of huge companies that are kind of, big in Japan who wanted to find a way to get an American audience or get a European audience or something. And so this is a good way to actually do that. So any questions so far?
I do. There's a bunch of questions that are coming in. Let's start with Ken Lin. He's asking, how do the folks that invest in the crowdfunding idea profit?
Yeah, so with Indiegogo, it's not the profit model. There are other crowdfunding sites. I think WeFunder is probably a big one, where it's more like people who actually want to invest in your product. And so they want a chunk of what's going on, and they want, returns on their investment. With this, it's really more of just like a different way of e-commerce, of thinking of e-commerce. And so people are giving you money for ostensibly a product. It's just going to be a product that isn't shipping right this second. Usually it's closer to like 3 to 6 months out from now.
Thank you. Okay, Aaron, should I patent an invention idea before listing it and asking for money through crowdfunding?
That is a really good question. It's kind of hard to answer this question. If you have the ability to patent your product before you go on Indiegogo, I would say it's a great idea to do it. We have definitely seen over the years on crowdfunding sites, especially if your product isn't, particularly difficult to manufacture, although it is innovative in different ways. And that's really what Indiegogo and crowdfunding is for. It's for innovative products, not necessarily difficult to manufacture products. And so if you have an interesting product that's easy to kind of rip off, we have seen products very quickly go to manufacturing through China or through some other mediums. And so if you have the ability to patent, I would go ahead and do that before ever going live. But beyond that, as I'm not a lawyer, I can't really give too much advice there, but I would think about it if you have the means.
Well, I'm not shy. As an inventor, if I'm going to put myself out there on a public platform for everybody to see, not only in the US and overseas or wherever else people are looking, it's definitely in your best interest, and in my opinion, to have at least a provisional patent application. And just like we spoke about earlier with a patent search, it's always good to do a patent search. You have the Patent and Trademark Resource Center, but you can go to a patent attorney or agent and see if your idea is something that can be patentable, get a patentability opinion. But really, you want to protect yourself before you make it public. And also, when you're disclosing your invention out there in the public, you have 1 year to file, but you have, with the patent office, it's first to file. So please just be aware, I'm not a patent attorney or agent. I'm just talking from an inventor perspective. If there's any patent attorneys or agents that are on the chat, you're more than welcome to put your comments on, but definitely protect yourself before you publicly disclose.
That is excellent advice.
Okay, let's see. All right, let's keep going. I think there's some other ones, but it's a little bit longer of conversations here, so I'm just going to keep asking you to continue.
Sounds good. Great. So one of those four or all four of those possibly apply to you. So you've decided, okay, maybe crowdfunding is for me. You think that you have a really innovative product that the Indiegogo audience would really find appealing. Again, I would really recommend going on Indiegogo.com whenever you get a second. Just kind of comb through the archives, see what's popular, see what's really taking off right now to see, do you have a product that would kind of fit into those ranks? If so, probably crowdfunding is for you. So you've decided to do it. Now what? How do you think about it? So what I will say is there's a lot of information out there about what goes into a really successful crowdfunding campaign. Like I said, there's a huge industry around it at this point. You could hire people to do all of this for you. But I think if you decide to do this yourself, or even if you don't, it's a good idea to have some of this knowledge. It's a lot of information, and I'm definitely going to give kind of more of a 101 version of crowdfunding. And so we have more information on our entrepreneur site. And so I have a link to that at the very end. And if you have other questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm more than happy to kind of chat and answer them. But this is kind of, I would say, a place to start. So thinking about crowdfunding in 3 stages, I think, is kind of key, especially on Indiegogo. The pre-launch stage is really a part of it that I would say some people don't really even know exists. And they think that they can just skip straight to step 2, which is actually crowdfunding. The pre-launch stage is actually where you're building out your base. So the people who are going to be your first supporters on day 1, they don't just show up out of, the ether. You've got to kind of bring them to the page. If you build it, they will come is not necessarily applicable here these days. It can be kind of hard to get noticed. No matter what site you choose, there's a lot of noise on all of them. And so you want to start off with a little bit of a cushion. And that cushion is what you're doing during your pre-launch phase. You're finding people who are interested in supporting this product. And I'm going to go into this a little later on in more detail, but just think of this as like building out your first earliest backers. Then you've kind of got that list. Then you've decided, okay, we're ready to launch the campaign. Then you're going to do the actual crowdfunding. This is anywhere between 15 to 60 days. 60 days is our max. We don't really have a minimum number of days, but 60 days is the maximum. And then after those 60 days are over, you can roll into what we call in-demand on our platform. In-demand is essentially, you can think of it as more like collecting pre-orders after crowdfunding is over. So this is where you can essentially be indefinitely live on Indiegogo and continue tapping into our audience and sending traffic that way if you'd like to, and collect orders there until you're actually ready to start shipping on your own site. So we are going to kind of break down the 3 ingredients to a successful campaign pretty simply today. So we've got product, community, and story. The first one, let's talk about product. So how do I know I have a good product? And how do I know that, crowdfunding is going to work for me? It is such a public way of doing this. You're really kind of putting yourself out on the world stage, and you're asking for money, and you're asking for people to kind of judge your product and tell you what they think of it. And it requires, I think, nerves of steel. But before that, preparing yourself. There's no such thing as being over prepared for crowdfunding. And so you can certainly, this is one of those things that you can like study your way into a good exam result, I would say. And so one of the ways to do that is to just make sure you have the right product for it. So the example we have here is the Baby Maker campaign. I think that their name is kind of one of the initial things that everyone notices about it. So when they were running ads, a lot of the comments we got there were like, what do you mean the Baby Maker? And as you could see, it's an e-bike. It's not making babies, but they got your attention with it. And that was kind of really the whole point of it. And so that's kind of their shtick. They had another product after this that they launched that they wanted to call the Sex Panther. So like they kind of have a vibe. And yeah, they're just beautiful, e-vehicles essentially. So the things to focus on are just making sure that, first of all, that you have a consumer focused product. This is not a B2B kind of platform. It's definitely going to be B2C. You're trying to find actual customers and consumers. If your product is meant for a business, then I would say that crowdfunding is probably not right for you, or you should find a more consumer focused aspect of it that you actually think will appeal to an audience on Indiegogo. Did you have a thing, Brian?
Well, I was going to say, Adeeti, is this at this point? So here we are. We have an invention. Hopefully, we did our due diligence. Where let's say it's patentable, or maybe it's not patentable, but at least you're going to raise money and consider and most likely manufacture if you do get funded by these backers. And the backers are the people that you're giving perks to. So a perk can end up being, let's say this bike, for example, if you give us a perk or you give us money for this perk, when we end up manufacturing this bike, we're going to send it to you. Maybe the first one that we have for a higher amount will have our signature on it, or it'll be made out of gold spokes. But whatever it is. So for us as inventors, we're always, when we get to that point, we're at that fork in the road, whether we're looking to license our inventions and we're looking to manufacture it. So what you're talking about is that we're kind of all in where we want to be an entrepreneur. We want to be able to go into manufacturing. And if we had the money, we would do it. And that's where we're at right now. So I just kind of wanted to summarize where it is. And based on what you're saying, many people use Indiegogo and this crowdfunding platform to be able to validate their invention or their idea. And look, if it ends up not doing well, it could be for the product possibly, or it could be that you just didn't have enough people attracted to your campaign. So I know that you're going to speak about that a little later, so I don't want to hit it here, but there's a lot of decisions to be made. But this is a great opportunity for inventors that do want to manufacture to make some noise, get people involved, and be able to get your product out there and have this brand awareness. So we appreciate it so far.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Whether you are really successful and raise whatever 13.7 million or not, I think there's something to be learned with the process of crowdfunding. So success looks different for every single campaign, I would say. So even if you don't hit the numbers you were hoping to hit, I think you still probably learned so much from that experience about who your customer is or isn't. And I think it can only help. And so, obviously I'm a fan. I've been here for like 7 years now. So there's definitely always something to learn no matter what. So consumer focused product, if you've decided to do it, that's kind of the way to go. Something new and innovative. Yeah, I really would take a look at the site just to see what other products that you're seeing there. It isn't always, something cutting edge, like the first, e-reader that also combs your hair or something crazy like that. It can just be something that's a little bit of a different take on the average product that they can get already. So the thing to think about here is people are buying a product that's not going to deliver for another 3 to 6 months probably. So how different do you have to be in order to make people wait 3 to 6 months in order to get your product? And so that's really the way to think about it when you're actually describing the product, when you're making the video, when you're doing everything you need to do in order to sell it. Focus on the things that make you different.
You made a really good point also, which I when I speak to inventors and myself just getting involved this way, when you're putting a campaign, let's say you want to put a campaign out there, or you want to talk to VCs, venture capitalists, or seed funding or whatever, when they ask you how much money you need or you want, it's probably a good idea to know that answer. So most likely you're going to have to take your CAD file or your specs or whatever it is of your product, invention, whatever it is, and be able to go to a factory and be able to get some quotes and be ready to be able to put it on here to say, I need this amount and I'm going to use this to manufacture my invention. And if you give me enough money, perks, then I'm going to be able to manufacture this and you'll get the perk and I'll be in business. So definitely a good idea to know what you're going to ask for, right, Adeeti?
Yeah. Before we ever launch the campaign, we will ask you, what is your goal? And so we'll ask for a dollar amount that you need in order to produce the product. I would set that goal at the lowest amount that you actually need. I wouldn't set it at, what you're hoping to get, which is probably, $1 or $2 million or something. I would set it at, what do you literally need in order to manufacture this product? Obviously, in a lot of cases, that's more of like a minimum order quantity sort of situation. So we do have the case where you can go by perk amount, like perk number rather than dollar amount. But that's something that, you could reach out to me and I can have the team turn on for you. But the typical thing that people think of when they think of crowdfunding goals is a dollar amount. So I would kind of start there.
Like that $15,000 goal that one of the other ones had, they ended up raising $238,000. Do they get to keep that money?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We our platform fee is 5%. So that's what we take for ourselves. And then there's another about 3% and then some change that goes to the payment processor. So it's about 8% is taken from the total raise. But beyond that, everything else is yours. With Indiegogo, we have two different types of funding. So we have flexible and we also have fixed. Fixed is what you might think of when you think of Kickstarter. What they have is kind of an all or nothing system. So you have to raise 100% of your goal in order to actually receive any of the money. We have that as an option, but I would say the more popular option for most people is flexible, where no matter whether or not you hit your goal, you're still going to get the money, and that's flexible. And so I would say for the most part, flexible is definitely the way to go. I think it makes it a lot easier for you and also easier for us on the back end. If you want to adjust a goal in the future, we can help you do that. So that's kind of how I would think about it.
Okay.
Excellent. So yeah, we talked about, wanting to make sure that you have something different, and you figured out what the differentiating value or the features are before you ever go live, and identify the clear market for your product. Part of the crowdfunding process is figuring that out. And part of the pre-launch process is running ads that help you figure that out. But you want to have some idea in mind, who that clear market is going to be. And rather than saying something like, oh, this is for everyone, I think that is kind of the bane of the crowdfunding market. Usually like something a little more niche is a good idea. An approachable price point for this type of product, it's important to do your research. And so again, I can't reiterate this enough. You're not delivering for another 3 to 6 months. And so what is the price point that will make people feel pretty good about the fact that they're not going to get a product for a little while? So usually it's cheaper than what is currently available, especially for something like this. If it's really that innovative and you're offering it for, typically we recommend 20 to 30% off of your MSRP during the crowdfunding campaign. I'm going to touch on that a little later when we actually talk about perks, but keeping the price point affordable and approachable for people is typically what helps them get off the fence. And finally, you want to make sure it's not impossible to manufacture. That 3 to 6 month timeline is the one I keep repeating because that is when people start to get impatient at the end of that 6 month mark. So you want to make sure that you are aiming for delivery within 6 months. Things like a global pandemic do happen and then they create shortages across the world. And so people are understanding. It really is in the end okay as long as you are really communicative, but keeping that in mind is important. So when you go live, you want to make sure that you do have a working prototype and manufacturing secured. So at least have a bare minimum idea of where these are going to come from, and start having those conversations. You aren't using the crowdfunding 60 days in order to start thinking about that. All of this should be done beforehand. The reason we say that is because, again, the industry has evolved. It's really gotten to a place where people have ordered things from crowdfunding and then they've been burned because they never delivered, because someone got in over their head. I don't think anyone goes into crowdfunding trying to steal people's money. What just happens is that people don't know how much it's actually going to take to deliver. And so something that we encourage now is, at the very least, have a working prototype. It also helps with shooting photos and videos to actually have a working prototype rather than using, renderings or something like that. Consumers can generally see right through that, and they start to question whether or not this is ever going to deliver. And so having a working prototype really does help build trust, and manufacturing secured, of course, so that way you can do that 3 to 6 month timeline. Under promise, over deliver is definitely the thing that you want to do here. So, you say it's going to deliver in 3 months, and then you actually get there within 2. And that means you have happy customers who are back for round 2 and round 3. So we're going to talk about community next, because I would say this is the most important part of the crowdfunding process, and the part that a lot of people don't recognize is actually, I would say, the bulk of the iceberg. And so let's kind of just jump really quickly into steps to growing your community. This can feel kind of overwhelming for people, so we've broken it down pretty simply. The first thing we recommend doing is creating a landing page. So this is something you can do on our platform. We do have the ability for you to create a landing page where you can collect email addresses and let people know that a crowdfunding campaign is coming. Or you can actually just do this off platform as well. If you want to do this on your own site, if you already have a fully functioning site that you're really comfortable working with, do it there. That's totally fine. Usually you have more control there. But if you want to do it on our site as well, just to kind of have something to send people to on our platform, that's also totally fine. I will say that our landing page is a little more bare bones than one that you'd be able to create. So if you want more control, you can do that. But we do have the ability to, do some A/B testing, so you can figure out what sort of messaging is resonating and, what's getting people to sign up. The important thing with the landing page is really you're just trying to collect people's email addresses. You're not collecting any money at this point, usually. There are certain strategies where people will collect $1 down at the time of collecting their email address, but that's a whole nother thing. And if you're interested in that, I'm more than happy to chat about it. Just shoot me an email and I'm happy to go into it, but it's far more complicated than we can get into tonight. But so mostly you're just trying to get people's email addresses, and that is, them sort of committing to purchasing the product later on. So you want to make sure you're making it really clear on that landing page that this is an email address that you're collecting, so that way you can feed them information about when the launch date is. Use words like crowdfunding, Indiegogo, things like that, so people know what they're actually signing up for. It's better to have really quality leads rather than a ton of leads that actually don't end up converting.
Do I have to be a programmer to make my landing page?
On Indiegogo, you do not. It is really very much like a plug and play sort of system. If you want to do it on your own site and you have a programmer on hand, or you're a programmer yourself, have at it. There's also a lot of people will do the Squarespace thing and kind of have a more plug and play option off platform. And so there's definitely options there. If you really want to get started here, there's, again, so many resources, not even created by our team, just really out there already. So if you just type in like how to create a landing page or something like that, there's a lot of plug and play options even outside of something like Squarespace.
Okay. When we get to a certain point, there's a bunch of questions here I want to be able to hopefully have you answer.
Okay. I'm going to zoom through this next part a little bit because, again, it is really complicated. So I just want to make sure you guys have the basics. And like I said, if you have any more questions, I'm super available, always happy to chat. So
thank you.
Of course. So yes, the next thing you want to keep in mind when you're building your landing page, make sure you have a really strong call to action. And a call to action is just, what do people need to do? Why are you trying to collect their email address? Why should they give you that? So right here, the example, and this is right from here, which is sign up and get the super early bird price of 25% off. And then in this case, they listed the actual price they were going to sell it for, which is $749 USD. And then they put the fire emoji so that you could know that it was hot. But I wouldn't always recommend having the actual price. In this case, it's pretty expensive. So it can be a good idea to test do people sign up if I put the price down? Are they still interested? You could do an A/B test and see if you're getting more emails without the price and just the percentage. At the very least, I would say, give them a percentage so they know that they're getting an early bird price. They're getting a 25% off, 30% off, whatever you're doing. And they have some, carrot essentially to actually give you their email address. So on that landing page, what you're going to do with that, how do you collect leads? Running ads on Facebook and Instagram is really, I would say, probably the biggest way that we get most of our leads for campaigns. Facebook and Instagram are kind of tried and true, even with some of the stuff going on with iOS and the privacy concerns around Facebook. It does still work. It just takes a little longer. Ads are a little more expensive than they used to be, I will be honest, but it does still work. And so run ads, try and get people to sign up and give you the email addresses from, the ads that they see on Facebook. They're taken to your landing page. They see the information. They're really excited. They know that the crowdfunding campaign is coming. And so they give you their email address. Create a really strong email cadence. Once they give you that email address, what do you do with them? You don't just let them sit until you launch the campaign and then that's the next time they hear from you. You want to make sure that they're hearing from you semi-regularly, not so much that you're really just spamming them with all of your thoughts. It's not your, journal or anything like that. You just want to give them the most important information. So, when is the campaign launching? Is it 3 days out from the campaign? You definitely want to let them know. And then the day before the campaign, you also want to let them know, hey guys, the campaign's launching tomorrow. And then the morning of the campaign, you want to let them know. So I would say there are 3 important emails to send out. When you have the date of the campaign and when that's kind of nailed down, let them know what that date is. And sometimes people like to use like the little calendar modal so they can add it to their own calendar very quickly from that email. And then 2, 3 days before, or I would say if you want to limit it, the day before you launch the campaign, send them another email. And then the third one you send out is the morning of the launch. So at minimum, you want to send those emails out, but in the middle, teasing them out, giving them some features here and there, getting them excited so that way they know what's coming. If you've got any behind the scenes manufacturing information, that sort of thing also gets people kind of on board and excited about supporting you on day one. And so, yeah, think of that email drip as essentially building confidence with them so that way they actually want to support you on day one. It's really important when you launch your campaign that email list actually converts. A number that I would kind of keep in mind is we see about a 2 to 3% conversion off of that email list, which feels a little low, which is kind of why you want to go pretty high in terms of how big you build that email list. And that 2 to 3% should build out 30% of how much you actually really want to raise of your campaign. We can do the rest after that. You can also run ads during the campaign while it's live, but at least 30% of your funds should come from that email list. So 2 to 3% conversion, 30%, those are some key numbers to kind of keep in mind. This next point is connect with the community on multiple touch points. The examples that we have here are, Twitter, Reddit, things like that. So if you're present in a lot of places, they'll feel like you're more legitimate and they're getting access to you in a few different ways. Not everyone is going to be on Instagram. And so if you're going to use Reddit, I would say keep it really authentic there. Don't try and sell. The Reddit community hates being sold to. Use that more for like AMAs and just building confidence with the community.
Adeeti.
Mm-hmm.
For us, many inventors and entrepreneurs out there, we may have come up with a great idea or a great business opportunity, but we're not marketers or programmers or designers, graphic designers. So on your last slide, it could be a little bit or maybe a lot overwhelming for many not so tech savvy type of people or a group of people that are working on their ideas together. So what do we do? Where do we go? Because I don't know how to, and I do, but I'm just talking on behalf of some of the people's questions out there. How do we get this done? Because yes, we would love to be able to get the money and raise money for what we're doing, if that's what you call it, to be able to get perks out to people. But how do we make this all happen? We don't even know what Reddit is and how to generate Facebook ads and all that. So maybe you can help us.
Yeah, so I would say you kind of have a couple of options here. If marketing is not your wheelhouse, totally understand. I'm not an inventor. I market and I do all of this instead. And so I'm not out here trying to learn how to invent and how to build, incredible products like you guys. And so I would say that it's best to get someone on your team who can do this. And so whether that means making a hire or getting a freelancer or just hiring an agency who has done this before. There's a lot of agencies that's, their whole thing is all they do is run crowdfunding campaigns for people. And they've been doing this for years now. And so if you want some agency recommendations, I'm happy to give you guys those. Just feel free to reach out to me. Again, my email address will be at the end of the presentation. So reach out to me. I can let you know. They come at a variety of price points, and some of them do get really, really expensive. Others are less expensive. And, sometimes they'll do things like take a percentage of what you raise instead, if they feel like especially confident that you have the means to do something. So I would say there's agencies at a lot of different price points for different needs. And then there's always freelancers who you can just kind of pay part-time to do this for you. And the same goes for all of the other stuff. When it comes to things like graphics and graphic design, again, you can hire someone to do it. You can hire a freelancer. You can hire someone on a site like I'm fully blanking on the one right now.
Upwork. There's Upwork and Guru. You can hire, just like any agency, you can hire an agency that specializes in Indiegogo campaigns or crowdfunding campaigns. Then there's pieces, because you gave us the secret sauce here of what we need to do. And we can hire somebody to do each one of these things, or somebody that knows how to do all these things that are freelancers. So you can find somebody that works in an agency that does things part-time that can do the same thing as an ad agency to save. So look, everybody's on different budgets, and that's all relative to what a lot of money is or little money is to you. But yes, it is possible. So don't let this list, because I know a lot of you can look at it and say, I don't know what to do. So good. There's some options out there for us, and they can be extremes of simple freelancers to agencies.
Yeah. I would use this more as like a template, so that way when you do talk to a freelancer, you know what they're talking about. So even if you're not going to run it yourself, you should have like a basic understanding of, what it is that they're going to do. So that way, you know that they're doing it right also. And so you don't want to hover. Obviously, you have experts and you want the experts to do their job. But having a little bit of a basic understanding of what goes into a successful crowdfunding campaign, like he said, the secret sauce, I think was always going to help you make sure you're also picking the right freelancer for the job. And so making sure that you're picking someone who knows this also. You don't want someone who, like, this is their first or second gig. Obviously, you want to give people a chance, but just if you have a little bit of knowledge, I think it'll help you weed through some of the people who are maybe snake oil salesmen when it comes to promising a bunch of ads and delivery that they can't actually manage.
Well, look, with anything that you do, make sure that you always do your research and do your due diligence and ask people what their experience was like before you hire somebody. Just because you tell them your idea doesn't mean that you're committed or obligated to them. Make sure that they're good to you and they're good for you, and make smart business decisions. As I tell many people out there, make smart business decisions and take your emotions out of this part of it.
Yeah, I would really feel like kind of like dating. Like, don't marry the first person you ever talk to. Have a bunch of people that you have kind of vetted. You've talked to them. Do they understand your product? Do they understand what you're trying to do? Are they promising returns that don't really make a lot of sense? If they're like, oh, I can get you 30x return on your ads, you should definitely question that. So
thank you.
Yeah. If they feel like there's something wrong, especially if you talk to 4 or 5 people and they're all promising you like 3x, 4x, and suddenly some guy's telling you 20x, you should question that 20x for sure. So yeah, definitely do your research.
And when you're saying that, it's okay, I want to raise $10,000, but I'm going to get you 20,000. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if someone says, okay, you've given me $10,000 to run ads, I can turn that $10,000 into $3 million. That is really hard to do. I would say that a lot of times, if I was to give you a ballpark figure, which I don't like to do just because it does depend on the product, I would say the amount that you spend on ads, expect that to be about 10 to 30% of what you actually end up raising in the end.
Look, all these percentages, we don't really know what that means because many of us have not run an Indiegogo ad before. So realistically, Adeeti, what do you think that we would spend if we were going to start an Indiegogo campaign on a shoestring budget to working with an agency? What do you think?
It depends. I have people who haven't had more than, a couple thousand, like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to spend. If you're going to spend $2,000 or $3,000, I would say that's going to be about 10% of what you end up raising in total. So if you have, $5,000 to spend, my math's not great, but 5,000 is 10%, and then you've got 90% left. And so, or let's make it easy. $10,000 to spend, then you're probably going to raise about 100,000. That's a general ballpark that you can kind of use. That definitely differs. And when you figure that out is when you're running these ads early on. If you're getting really, really good returns, and again, you don't need to worry about this, hire someone to do this if you don't know what a good return looks like. Also, there's a lot of information that's out there. So just, I would do some searching around like, what is good returns on ad spend? Things like that is kind of where you'd start. If you're getting good returns off of your initial ads, then you're really able to figure out if that 10K is actually going to lead to 100K, or maybe ads in your niche market are actually extremely expensive. And that's when you start figuring out that actually to get an e-bike customer is going to cost me way more than, let's say, a headphone customer or something like
Good
that.
stuff.
So, yeah.
Good stuff. We have a lot of questions coming in, so let's hold them until Adeeti's done, and we'll get them answered for you.
Okay, excellent. So we talked about running ads and having a landing page as being one of the big email list building strategies. There are other ones. I would say focus your energy on, email list building and running ads and, that typical method of doing it. There are other ways of doing it, and these are some of the others, and this will kind of help you build out the rest of it. Activating your personal network. If you have a lot of friends, family, people that can support you on day one, definitely let them know. You should not launch in a vacuum. Everyone should hear about it. Crowdfunding, again, like I've said, it is really public. So get used to asking people to support you, get used to reaching out to them personally, over text, over call, over email, whatever it might take, and actually getting them to support you on day one and week one. And ideally you want them to actually buy the product as a way of supporting you. Then if you've got a social following, if you're someone who is really tech savvy and is, social media savvy, and you've built out that audience there, make sure you tap into that, let them know what's going on before you ever launch a campaign. So that way they feel like they're kind of there for the journey of that, and you can convert that social media following. You can also reach out to the press. This is, I think, what a lot of people think about when they think about more traditional e-commerce. So, launching with a PR agency or hiring someone to do some PR for you, to reach out to, like Mashable or some of these like online publications that will talk about a crowdfunding campaign. TechCrunch is a big one. We've even seen some people get press as big as like the New York Times. So, depending on how innovative your product is, you could go that high. But press, I would say, don't expect press to bring in all of your money. Press is more just like a nice to have, since these are people who are going to see your page and they may or may not be interested. But it kind of does give you an air of legitimacy, I think, to get some press.
Okay, great.
It's important to create some shareable content. And then when we can all see each other in person again, attending industry events is really important. Something like CES or some other industry events where you actually find people who are building these sorts of products and consumers who are interested in these sorts of products, spreading the word there. And again, working with partners, I think this is the big one. If you don't want to do this yourself, there's always people you can hire to do this.
So it's really, you're counting on building your list through your social media or through just general social media. And then you have this list and you send out information about your campaign and you send it out again. And then friends and family and whoever else you send it again to them. And hopefully they share it with somebody else they know to extend the network and be able to build and generate enough of perk money to be able to manufacture your product and send them the first run that you do.
Yeah, exactly. I think this graphic kind of illustrates that a little bit also. And so kind of think of it as like what you do before your launch and what you can do after your launch. And so that email collection on that landing page, that's one part of it. It is a big chunk of it, but some of the other things you can do is sharing the content on Facebook and Twitter, just social media generally. And then, yes, this last one is engaging with your friends and family. You want to make sure that they're also there on day one. And these are people who are ready to support you. And they've kind of, again, been through a little bit of the struggle with you. And that I would say is kind of going to be your traffic to the page that you've planned out before you ever go live. After you go live, think about traffic this way. Don't send press to a page that hasn't launched. It's only after your crowdfunding campaign is actually live that you really want to send any press there. And this includes, getting reviews and things like that. That can also be really helpful. With press, they often want to hold the product themselves before they ever write about it. So if you're at that point where you have a working prototype enough where you feel confident sending it out to people so they can test it out and be one of the early adopters, that's a really great way to get press to actually write about you as well.
Good. Well, raising money is not easy, and this is a unique way to do it. And it looks like these are doable tasks to accomplish, whether it's by yourself or hiring a freelancer or an agency. But to me, from what I'm getting from this, it's really important, even before launch, after launch, you need to be prepared. Like, you need this stuff ready before you put your campaign up, because when you put your campaign up, it's go time. And if people are seeing that nobody else is kind of into it, then they're going to bounce. And it seems like you should really be ready from the start to hit the ground running. Is that right?
Yeah. I would say a metaphor that we really like to use here is, the restaurant one, which is like you're walking down a street and the only context that you have is there's a restaurant on your right and a restaurant on your left, and one is very empty and one has a couple people in it. Which one are you more likely to go to? The one that's very empty or the one that has a couple people? It's usually the one that has a couple people because you feel like, okay, this looks like a place that people actually like to eat. I can probably trust it. It's not going to food poison me. These people seem to be happy, whereas this one is empty and no one is there. And so people feel a sense of wanting to be where the action is, and crowdfunding, because it's such a public way of raising money, is, I would say, definitely people want to be where the action is. So getting that 30% on day one is super, super key. And that is really where all of that before launch preparation goes into it. So it is a lot of work, but once you go live, I would say that's actually where the smooth sailing starts. And so people think the crowdfunding process is going to be hard for those 60 days. It's like the 2 months beforehand that you're actually doing most of your work. And then after you go live, you can kind of like let it run itself.
This is a great lesson. I want to be able to also get to all the questions that we have. So let's continue. I know I'm interrupting a couple of times, but hopefully it's relevant for everybody. Hopefully you're thinking the same thing I am.
Yeah, no, this is great. I feel like I'm getting like direct feedback on the information. I can like fix it for the next time I do this. So then having product reviews and blog posts, things like that as you go live, that can be something interesting to kind of keep the page feeling really dynamic. So that way things are always changing on it. And then you might be asking, okay, where is the traffic coming from after I launch? That is usually ad traffic. And so people have set aside a portion of their budget. The vast majority of your budget should go to live ad traffic that you're going to be sending to the campaign versus the budget that you're spending on building that pre-launch list. And so I would say 20 to 30% of the budget that you have, spend that on pre-launch. And then the rest of the money, spend that on ads that you're going to send to the campaign page after it's live. And that's where you're getting pretty regular traffic, regular conversions every single day. Indiegogo is going to do its part as well. We have a huge audience. And so we like to, make sure that any campaign that we're working with especially is getting highlighted. And so, like I said, reach out to me. I'm happy to make sure you get some coverage on the platform. But we have newsletters, we have organic newsletters, we have homepage placements, we have social media. So we have a lot of different ways to access our audience. And so that's also going to be driving a lot of the traffic after you go live.
Okay.
So email numbers are not enough. You do have to keep your community engaged after you do launch. And so what this means, I think another number to kind of throw at you guys, I know I've thrown so many percentages already, but 75% of backers we found actually want to communicate with campaign owners before they ever contribute to the campaign. And so, they look at the page and they see other people are there, but they have a lot of questions beforehand. Before, it used to be that you would have to put an email address that they could reach you at pretty prominently on your page, so that way they would know where to get to you. But we've actually got a feature these days that allows you to essentially have people leave comments whether or not they've purchased the product. So it used to be that in the comment section, you had to have already bought the product before you could leave a comment. Now, anyone can leave a comment as long as they're logged in. And this is a really great way to figure out what questions are people asking, meaning what questions have I not already answered on the page. A lot of times this is how campaigners find out what gaps they have in their pitch and in their video. And so then they'll go through and then they'll actually make those changes. So that way people stop asking those questions. And we've actually found since implementing this, the conversion rate has actually increased significantly on the campaign pages. And so 32% from the beta test alone. So this is a quick quote that I'll let you guys read. But essentially the thing to take away from this is that and this is kind of, I think, why people turn to crowdfunding. Consumers want to have a real feeling of connection to the products that they purchase. And so they could just buy something random from Walmart today, but why do they go the crowdfunding route? They go the crowdfunding route because people really want to support actual people. And so if you're an inventor who has a personality, I think crowdfunding was like tailor made for you. We love people who love to chat with their audience. They love to, send out videos to them after they've launched the campaign, letting them know like, hey guys, behind the scenes look of what's going on with the manufacturing. Crowdfunding backers are on board and they're taking the risk of buying something that's not going to deliver for a while because they generally really love entrepreneurship and things that aren't going to that need a little time to actually gestate before they can be sent out. And so these are less risk averse than your typical consumer. And they need a little engagement to feel kind of special. They like being the first person to get something. They're early adopters. And so thinking about what an early adopter audience would like. And, usually I think a lot of you guys are probably also early adopters as inventors. And so what would you want to know behind the scenes is kind of a good way to think about what community building looks like on the platform. So I have space for some more questions. I'm not sure if we're like going over time, so I don't want to pause too long here in case we are going over time. But
it's amazing. This was a great lesson and an intro because we're not sure really. We've heard all these different crowdfunding initiatives that are out there. We don't know what to really do to be able to get our product out there. Sometimes we think about licensing, which means that we would not do this necessarily, and we would basically have, let's say, some good intellectual property. I believe that that's important. Having a good prototype, maybe even your CAD files if it's that type of product, and then being able to go to a company that already has product in retail or selling somewhere, and basically renting the rights to your intellectual property to them, where they would manufacture it, they would distribute it, and you would earn a royalty. So your Hugh, yes, that takes a load off of a lot of what you're proposing here to do. But again, it's based on risk reward. So when you're licensing, your risk is minimal. You could make a lot of money. And again, that's all relative to what that means. Or you can end up licensing to a company that maybe they don't have great distribution, or maybe the buyers aren't into it, and you might have low royalty rate return. But if you end up wanting to be a little bit further and a risk taker entrepreneur and getting people involved, then you can use this crowdfunding platform like Indiegogo. And yes, there's work to do like anything else. You put your time and effort in, and hopefully you see the return. Now, Adeeti, sometimes when we're working on this and we end up not getting what we need because maybe number one, we might not have been prepared. Number two, maybe we didn't have the social outreach to be able to make something happen. So people didn't really know about our campaign. We're not going to necessarily blame it on Indiegogo that you didn't put us in a newsletter or on the front page. But what happens to, we know about the people who are successful. What happens to the people that aren't successful?
That's a good question. We definitely had, it's ranged. We've had a lot of campaigns who have gone on to, actually, I think a really good example is the one I was going to use. But so Quip, you might have heard of them like through. I feel like they advertise in podcasts a lot. It's like an electric toothbrush that's just like cuter than your typical electric toothbrush. Is really, I would say, their main quality. They were actually an Indiegogo campaign years and years ago, and they didn't hit 100%. I think they got part of the way there. They didn't really find their audience, but that doesn't actually mean that you don't have an amazing product on your hands. It kind of just means maybe you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what you needed to do differently. Quip now is worth probably more than Indiegogo, if I'm going to be honest. They are everywhere. I don't know a friend who doesn't have a Quip toothbrush. And so I think that just because you don't do, a $13 million campaign on Indiegogo, I don't necessarily think that that means that you're not going to have a huge product on your hands. I think it just means that you need to really have kind of like a back to the drawing board moment of like, what can I learn from what might not have gone right here? I'm always happy to talk this over also, because I've seen so many of these. So if you ever want to reach out after the campaign's over and you want to talk it over, I'm happy to do that. But yeah, I think there's lessons to be learned regardless, but success also looks really different for some people. For some people, getting $50,000 is like a huge amount of money and really all they ever needed to get started. And for some people, they think that $2 million is a failure. And so, what does success mean to you is something I would really dwell on and think about before you ever go live.
Okay. There's a bunch of questions here. So let's see if we can answer them as quick as possible so we can get as many as we can in here. And I know it's getting late, but this is amazing information that not only is everybody listening to right now, but it'll be evergreen online, and it'll really give you a chance to take your time and re-listen to this if you need to before deciding on your Indiegogo campaign, if you're going to do it, and just the steps that you need to get done and strategize for sure. So Let's see. Coffee Bullet. What if your product is manufactured and packaged, patented and trademarked? Will your product still fit for sales and marketing help?
As in, if you're already selling the product in store, or
So let's say, what would you? Yes. So if you're already selling it, let's say you manufactured and packaged it, you got everything in place. Do you still need Indiegogo?
Yeah, I would say that as long as you're not already selling the product in stores, like if I can't, I just want to make sure, like if I shouldn't be able to go to Target and get this exact product right now. If you are just at the point where you've like packaged, manufactured, but you haven't started delivering this product to anyone, then I would say crowdfunding is still right for you. And in some cases, it could be even more right for you because you are the type of campaigner who's able to ship within, a month or so. And that's really exciting. And so you're able to make a huge splash and deliver and get, the benefits of crowdfunding without a lot of the risk for yourself. But if you are already selling this exact product in stores, I would say probably not a good idea, just because our trust and safety team does pay attention to that. They want to make sure that this is like a unique product that isn't being sold. And so one of the other things that we'll do is we'll do a check to make sure, is this something that's already available on like AliExpress? Like, did you just like white label it and send it out? We want to make sure that's also not happening.
Thank you. Another point, just from an inventor perspective. So let's say I need 20,000 for tooling and production, my first run. I end up taking care of all the people that I have to give the perks to, and they're going to get my first production run with my signature on it, my brass, my gold plated one, or 14K one, whatever it is, whatever level that they go on to. And so now what? What do I do next? So now I have 5,000 units in my garage. I ended up taking care of my backers. I have 4,000 units left. I sold 1,000 of them on Indiegogo. What do I do next? So I think part of the planning that you proposed with pre-launch, during launch, is that after launch of, okay, thank you, Indiegogo, for giving us that start. I'm not going to use the other word before that because I'm talking to Indiegogo tonight. But what do I do next? So it's really good, I think, to plan ahead and to figure out, is this something that you may want to launch on like a QVC or an HSN? Is this something that you might want to get into catalogs? I mean, we heard from Tony Pagoda earlier that he's doing phenomenal on Amazon. And Amazon, look, you don't have to be in my opinion, you don't have to be in a retail store to be successful. For us inventors, we sell one product out there and people are using it for the same reason we came up with. I think that's success, but it's all relative to what that means to you. But really to have that kind of plan, right, Adeeti? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. We have campaigners who I would say kind of do a little bit of everything. And so they will sell through in demand on the platform, which kind of is like an evergreen place to have it live on our platform. You can always turn that off if you'd like, maybe 6 months later or whatever it might be. We also have a partnership with Amazon Launchpad. So if that's something you're interested in, we always are happy to set up that connection for you guys. And that's a dedicated part of Amazon where innovative products live. And so that's another opportunity that you have through Indiegogo and launching with us. And then, I have a lot of campaigns that just go onto regular Amazon or QVC is right. I think that's kind of another place where you see a lot of these sorts of products. Really, the sky is the limit here. A lot of times people will also use this as a way to leverage getting more outside investment. And so they can say like, hey, look, I have 2,000 people who bought this product already. There's clearly a demand. If I had, 1 million, 2 million more, I could do X, Y, Z. And so think about what that looks like for you. And a lot of people have used this, like I said, to get tons and tons of VC investment. And sometimes the crowdfunding campaign is really just a drop in the bucket of what they actually are have their eye on. And so
okay, that's great. Everybody's asking for your contact info, and why would we contact you, Adeeti, and tell us what to expect when we do contact you, because some people are looking for help with launching from what I'm reading here on these chats. Some people are looking to want to understand what their investment is and what their return is. So I know that it's a little bit into, like we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but tell us what to expect when we contact you or one of your colleagues there, and how you can help us.
Yeah, so Ryan, I actually have a little bit of the presentation still left. I'm happy to kind of, I know that we're probably way over at this point, so I can kind of skip through this really quickly. If you guys want to take a screenshot, I think this would be a good screenshot to take.
Let me get that back on the screen. Okay.
What the structure looks like of a campaign. And all this information is, if you want more of this, that's a good reason to reach out to me. If you have so many questions that, we didn't get to today, and if you just want to chat for 30 minutes, my calendar is open to you guys. Again, my entire job is to kind of talk to entrepreneurs and teach them what goes into crowdfunding and give you guys the resources to actually feel like you can do this, whether on your own or with an agency partner, whatever it might be. If you need some introductions, if you have agencies that you're thinking about and you're not sure if they are, scammers or something like that, I know all of them, and I'm happy to make sure that you guys aren't falling prey to predatory practices there. So this is another good screenshot I would take. It's just kind of the general timeline. But all this information over here, you can reach out to me from at my Indiegogo address, which is Adeeti, Adeeti, at Indiegogo.com. Happy to set up 30 minutes to chat and talk you through what a launch strategy would look like. And again, give you I'm happy to give you real talk. If you want to know, like, is my product actually good for crowdfunding? I'm never going to try and get you to launch if I don't think you can actually do this. And if I do think you can do it, I'll tell you exactly how to get there and what you need to look at in order to make sure you're doing it right. And then I would also take a look at our Entrepreneur Resources Center. So this is the link. I'm happy to also send it to Brian afterwards if he wants to send it out as a link to you guys.
Sure.
But it's our education center. I have hosted a lot of webinars with our team before, and there's other people on the team that have done this as well. And so we have things that are just all about pre-launch 101, or all about building the perfect campaign page, or, what goes into the perfect video for your crowdfunding campaign. So there's so many different moving parts. And so we've got a webinar for all of it. We've got articles online. So we have a lot of resources. We want to make sure you feel fulfilled there. And so if you don't feel like digging through them and you're like, I don't want to do it, Adeeti, tell me which ones I should read, reach out to me. I'm happy to just send you to the right ones.
That's awesome. I'm just going to put some other questions. Thank you very much, Adeeti. And if everybody wants to screenshot that, we can put it in the chat also. Before I had one of the questions, but it was over your face, so I took it off the screen. But let's see. We we kind of went over this, Joe. Typical, we talked about working on a shoestring budget, working with freelancers to be able to hit each of the lists that was a little earlier. For many people that are asking, yes, this is recorded. You could go to nationalinventorclub.com and go to past meetings, and you'll be able to see this meeting and the previous meetings that we've had there. So you can, again, take your time, go through. So Joe, yes, we did put that out there before. I know that a couple of these came up, Adeeti. Rick asked this question and somebody else about the Arrow program.
Oh yeah, so Arrow is one of our partnerships that we have. Launchpad is one of them with Amazon. Easy Ship is another one. So if you're thinking about doing shipping and you want a good partnership for that, I'm happy to make the connection to you guys with the internal contact that we have there. Same goes for Arrow. So if you have a product that you are manufacturing and you want the experts at Arrow to take a look, I'm happy to connect you guys. There are some benefits to working with Arrow on our end, which I'm also happy to go over, again, either over email or in a call, whichever one works for you guys. But essentially, the Arrow partnership also gives you a stamp of approval on your page. That's kind of like Arrow's taking a look. They think it's great. They think it's going to work. And it's just, again, crowdfunding is really about trust. And so the elements that you want to look at are, making sure people feel like they can trust in your product. And that comes into the video, that comes in the page, but also things like the Arrow badge really help with that.
Thank you. Colleen, do you accept all types of products? By product as in manufacturing, I'm seeking $7,300 precisely. For website, material purchase, packaging, is this too small?
That's a good question. It does depend on what your product is. So I would say, like apps don't tend to do super, super well in crowdfunding. Like physical products are really the way to go here. So if you've got like a cool new cell phone or something that you're trying to sell, like that's great. If you have an app for the cell phone, less so. And so we do accept all types of products. Again, the thing I would recommend doing here is just taking a look at Indiegogo.com and seeing what the different categories we have are, and what has been successful there. The other thing, to use the word that maybe we're talking around, Kickstarter. Everything that can run a Kickstarter campaign can also run an Indiegogo campaign. So take a look at what they've got. And if it fits in there, it fits in on Indiegogo. And I'm happy to talk to you guys.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's see. How do we connect with the appropriate person if we waxwork on the market validation, branding awareness campaign? So is this something that you would help us with, Adeeti, or should we have somebody who is more of a marketing company do something like that?
I would say honestly, and maybe I'm signing myself up for too much and like I'm gonna get like 700 emails tomorrow, which would be amazing. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me. And if I'm not the right person for it, and I do know an agency or a freelancer who would actually be a good fit for you for something like this, I'm happy to make the connection. For me, just kind of think of me as like a free consultant who can just talk you through what crowdfunding looks like and make sure that you're hitting all the beats that you need to hit. And I also do a little bit of like, if you need to bounce ideas off of someone. Before I worked in this role, I just did pure strategy. And so I essentially taught crowdfunding campaigns how to raise money. And so I kind of implemented on it as well. So I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. This is a little bit long. I get nervous about these long comments because it cuts off half your face there. But, I want to take this. Thank you, Marcus, for your comment or your question. But yes, she does know agencies, and you can also find Indiegogo or crowdfunding agencies online, and she's, Adeeti was saying also, just do your due diligence like anything else that we've discussed, Marcus, right? Always make sure that you want to work with the person or a company that you're talking to, get references, see how they've done, see successful campaigns. But I have a question for you, Adeeti, because there's a lot of options out there for us. And I don't want to get into too many of the other types of crowdfunding options or opportunities out there. But can you tell me why you think, and what I've heard, that Indiegogo is more inventor friendly? How would you answer that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say so, not just because I work at Indiegogo. I think one of the things you might notice when you go to Kickstarter is that a lot of the campaigns are actually creative products. And so you see a lot of board games, you see a lot of, comic books, things like that. while we do have a contingent of our platform that is that, I would say our bread and butter is tech products. And so pretty much everything I work on is a tech product. And so I think that's kind of the audience that we've really built out to be interested in crowdfunding campaigns. And so these are the ones that you'll find through our newsletters, through our homepage, things like that. And the level of support that we give on our platform is all kind of geared towards making sure you actually resonate with that audience.
Understood. You know, I tried so hard the entire night not to use the word Kickstarter, but you did. That's okay. As long as you did it first, that I'm good. All right. Well, I know there's a lot of other questions. I'm sure your inbox is going to be filled. And since this stays online, you'll be asked questions for a long time to come. We really appreciate having you here as our guest. Great information. Really gave us some perspective of this option and opportunity for crowdfunding. So Adeeti, most of us are inventors. There's resources for inventors out there. I see patent agents and attorneys and engineers and not a startup. I know a couple of people that are starting businesses that are on here watching and listening. What kind of words of wisdom and some final words of advice would you give us when we're kind of like at that point where we have this idea, we want to get it out there? What do we do next? Indiegogo. No, more than that. Give us some words of wisdom from your experience doing this for 7 years.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, again, 7 years in, every single time I launch a campaign, which is like multiple campaigns a month, I am shocked every single time. It's such a public way of doing this, but I think that as risky as it is, the rewards I find are worth it every single time. And I've never, in all those 7 years, talked to a campaigner who regretted doing this. This is always something that I think probably will be one of the hardest things that you do, but I think it will also be one of the most rewarding things. Connecting to an early community of people who are really on fire for your product as much as you are is like something that you just really can't find through something like Amazon or, you know, again, to use the example of Target. And so as risky as it might feel, as much work as it might feel, I think that it wouldn't be an industry that continues to grow if it wasn't worth it. And so we're here to hold your hand. You're not really in this alone. And so, yeah, it's worth it. That's my piece of advice.
Thank you very much. And if you could just tell us, actually, I could just put it on the screen one more time. Here is your contact information. I see there's no phone number. We'll start off with an email from you, and you'll send us a calendar invite to schedule some time. If it's not you, it's one of your colleagues that you'll refer us to. But most likely, we will hear from you or one of your colleagues and provide us information. And this entrepreneur.indiegogo/education is a great link. I've seen it. I've read it. A lot of people have asked me to do research on crowdfunding and this type of crowdfunding, and great resources out there. And you have plenty to look at, whether it's campaigns that are on right now. You can just simply go on Indiegogo.com and check out what's active, what's doing well, what's not doing well. See if you think that yours could do well. Adeeti mentioned that it's tech products, but we saw a bicycle, we saw toothbrushes, we've seen a lot of different things and campaigns out there. So you can make it happen, but it takes work. It's not just throwing it on there and seeing what sticks. You got to be prepared, have the right team in place, and whether it's somebody you hire as a freelancer or an agency relative to your budget and what you want to do. And if this is something that you want to get into a business with, because once you have those units in your garage or in your warehouse or at your distribution center, wherever it went, you still might have product that needs to be sold. So have a plan. And that's what I've learned. And I think everybody's felt the same way out there. So thank you very much, Adeeti. Really appreciate you being on a guest with National Inventor Club. And we'll keep on inventing for you so you can keep Indiegogo going with our inventions.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. This was exciting, and I can't wait to hear from you guys.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's, thank you, Adeeti. And again, thank you everybody for joining us. This has been very informative. experience with learning about crowdfunding with Indiegogo. Remember, if you'd like to be a guest, there's free membership and paid membership. You can go on nationalinventorclub.com. You can take a look at all the past meetings that we've had. They've been awesome, I think, and a lot of great feedback. Great guests coming up, and Inventor Showcase coming up, Service Provider Showcase coming up. We're going strong in 2021. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate all your support and everything that you do with the National Inventor Club. Keep on inventing. Keep on inventing. Have a great night. Thank you again.